You're listening to the Bear in Mind podcast, episode number 97.
A podcast uncovering identity, color, and love, where driving yourself crazy is totally sane and curable. Now your host, T. Vias.
I think sometimes people have a misunderstanding of what it means to end the cycle. And the phrase is used to say, okay, I'm an adult now. I've come from this family, whatever that family structure is. There are patterns that I see, and in my life today or with the family that I'm creating, I want to end that cycle. I want to break those patterns that I've seen in my family. And a lot of the patterns are, I want to stop yelling. I don't want to yell like my family did, or I don't want alcohol to be part of it. That's also one of the cycles that people want to break. And there is a misunderstanding when I talk to people about breaking family cycles, that they want to live differently than how they were raised, is that there's often not a clear way to look at what you're actually doing when you're ending the cycle. So if you go back to, you want to stop yelling, what we look at breaking the cycle as if we don't yell in our lives as much. It's not our go-to expression of anger. We're not constantly yelling at people, yelling at our kids. And if we have stopped this action, we think that we have ended the cycle. And that often doesn't happen. You can have your yelling under control, or maybe you're not a person just out of your personality. Maybe you don't yell because your family yelled and somehow you don't yell. And you might think, well, I've already broken the cycle. I'm not a person that yells. And what I want to share with you is that there's this breaking a cycle is a lot deeper than the actions that you see on the outside. So even when you look at the actions of somebody drinking a lot, somebody who abused alcohol, and I've seen this in an extended family member of mine and I'm looking at 3 generations, where the first generation, there was an alcoholic, the father, then he had a firstborn son, and that son decided, I'm not going to drink alcohol. No, never touched a drop of alcohol in his life. And then firstborn son, the third generation, which is the current generation now, that person has problems and different kind of problems that manifested. So the cycle actually hasn't been broken. And that's what I want to talk to you about, is even though there's the absence of yelling, the absence of alcohol, the absence, whatever you imagine that you don't want, is that the cycle could still be there, and that there are ways to actually look at it so you can actually break the cycle. So here's what happens. The cycle that you are essence in trying to break is how emotions are handled in your family. And this is something that gets passed down because when we grow up, all we're doing is we're learning about our emotions, whether that's not at a conscious level, not in a course, or, maybe our parents, our primary caregivers never spoke to us about emotions and what to do with them. There is the pattern of handling those emotions that get passed down to generation to generation. And then what we see is the actions taken from those emotions that we want to stop. So there's the way we handle anger, and then there's yelling that can get passed down from generation to generation. There's maybe substance abuse, alcoholic abuse, and that is the way the person abusing the substance was handling their emotions. They weren't actually handling their emotions. They were numbing the pain. They were buffering with a substance, and it got out of control where their brain mechanisms weren't working. So the addiction became so much so that they couldn't stop it without help. And the key to ending the cycle is to realize what's happening with your emotions and to understand what you're doing from certain emotions, that you're taking certain actions, and then clarify those emotions. So for example, you want to stop yelling, or you want to not numb your pain through constant eating. Eating's also another form, overeating, binge eating. And it's that two things are happening. The yelling, the overeating, all of those things are happening because of a mismanagement of emotions, not caring for our emotions. So when we're angry, we yell and we don't understand why we're angry. So we never understand our emotions. We never understand what's causing it. And then understanding why we're angry all the time to lead to the yelling. And then, if we're eating a lot of food that we don't want to be eating, overeating, which just means you're eating more than the fuel that's required for your body to function, is that you're eating to numb an emotion. So you're not even understanding what that emotion is, and not allowing for that emotion and allowing your body to process that emotion. That anytime you feel uncomfortable, you grab the chocolate or you grab the potato crisps or things like that. And that manifests its way in your life in different ways. So it can look different from your family. You could be a person that doesn't yell. You can be a person that doesn't drink. You can be a person that doesn't overeat. And you could still not understand your emotions and handle your emotions. And then it ends up manifesting itself in your life in a different form. And it could be a little misguided to be like, oh, we've ended the cycle, when we only think of the action that we don't want in our life. And that's really tricky because we don't often see this manifestation ourselves, how it has come about. And this is going to be really tricky because when I tell people how you can tell if you've actually broken the cycle, there is, it's not like a 100% proof test, but it's kind of a litmus test where you can kind of tell quickly if you've actually broken the cycle of your, past and not wanting to repeat things that happened in your past today. Is that the way you can tell is, how do you look at that past? Do you look at it with love and care? Or do you still hold, anger, and are you still blaming and going, well, my childhood was this way? If you're still doing that, you still haven't ended the cycle, because there is some emotion that you still harbor. There's still some anger and you haven't dealt with those emotions. It doesn't mean you're not angry about your past. What you understand about that emotion is, how is it helping you today to still be angry at something that you cannot change, 100% cannot change, and it's a 100% losing battle. And by handling all of those emotions that you might still carry about your past and not dealing with those emotions and processing them and letting them be there, that's how you can actually tell if the cycle is broken. Because you'll be like, okay, I am angry and I'm going to deal with the anger that I have at the people in my past, deal with it, move through it, and come out with clarity and wisdom. And when you have that clarity and wisdom, often at the end of that is a more positive emotion, a greater understanding, a compassion, an acceptance, which all of those kind of emotions feel good. They are coming from this place of genuine love for yourself and love for the other people, knowing that the past generation was stuck in a cycle that they either maybe didn't have the resources or the help, and they couldn't get out of their own cycle. And kind of that's how I can tell when I talk to people, is that they're still kind of looking at their past as if that's where it went wrong, and not taking that, not looking at it and combing through it and being compassionate with all of the emotions that they might have about the past generation cycle. And so when you have understood your emotions and combed through them, and this is quite, I don't want to say it's a lengthy process, but it's a very uncomfortable process that a lot of people don't want to go through because it feels so uncomfortable, is that you will have ended the cycle when you have combed through your emotions. And anything that comes your way, you'll be able to handle. You won't go to overeating. You won't go to drinking or substance abuse, or you won't go to yelling or lack of intimacy in your relationships and not sustaining relationships and all of the things that you want. Is you will understand your emotions and be able to navigate your life through this understanding rather than kind of being at the effect of it. At the end of it, like the emotions just overtake you and overrule your life, where you do grab the chocolate at the end of it, or you end up always yelling. And so that's what I wanted to offer you, is that ending this cycle is about breaking how you handle your emotions, understanding your emotions, and deciding what you're going to do with your emotions in a very intentional way. And that's all I have for you this week. I'll check back with you next.
Thanks for listening. Listen for a new episode next Tuesday by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Bye for now.